Hey guys, this is Mr. Telzero. I'm going to be solving a few problems from practice 7.8. I want to make sure you guys know how to do this. I'm going to solve the starred problems, which are going to be 1, 3, 5, 6, and then I'm going to do number 7 down here after that. You should be able to fill in the other ones on your own. So let's just jump right into number 1. You can see that it tells us to find each balance, and we've got our principal, interest rate, how it's compounded, either annually or semi-annually, and the number of years. Now, our equation that we need to know is for compound rates or compound interest, we're going to take the balance and it's equal to principal times 1 plus the rate in parentheses, which is going to be raised to n, which n is the number of times that it is compounded. So we're going to come over here and do number 1. You can see that one clue to look for first is it annually or semi-annually? If it is annual, you just use the numbers that are provided for you. So let's go over to number 1, and for my principal, I'm just going to substitute in 400. That is the principal. It tells you right there. And then for rate, I'm going to convert 7% to 0.07. I've got to turn it into a decimal. I'm going to raise that to 3 because 3 is the number of years. So I'm going to come to my calculator, and I can do 1.07 because I can just do that in my head, and raise that to a power of 3, and I'm going to get that number. And take that number and multiply it by times 400. And I get $490 and 0.0172. That's going to be 0.01, but the 7 is going to raise it up to 2. So I'm looking at $490.02. So I'm going to write that in. $490.02. So that's my first one right there. Now let's jump to number 3. Number 3 is a little bit different because we're dealing with semi-annually. And the rule for semi-annually is you will double the number of years because that balance is going to be compounded twice a year. Semi-annually means twice a year. And then you're going to half the interest rate because each time it's not going to be compounded at the full interest rate, it's going to be compounded at the half. All right, and we're going to see how that affects our equation for number 3. So number 3, we've got our principal of 1,200, our interest rate, which is 4, and our number of years, which is 2. So let's come over to our equation, and you can see I have my principal here of 1,200. I have 1 plus 0.02. I got that by taking the 4% interest rate and cutting it in half, which is what I'm being asked to do. And then I raise it to a power of 4 because even though there are 2 years, I know that twice a year, 2 times 2 is 4. So that's going to be my equation right there. B equals 1,200 times the rest of that. So let's plug it in to my calculator. 1.02 raised to the power of 4 gives me that number. And I'm going to multiply that by 1,200. And I get this number, 1,298 with a 91 and then an 8 next door, so it looks like 1,298.92. Let's write that in. 1,298.92 is my answer. Now, with these two solved, you should be able to do the rest. Let's jump down to number 5 and 6. Number 5 and 6 say to find the simple interest. And remember that simple interest has its own unique equation. It's a lot simpler. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So we're just going to take the numbers and multiply them all together. For 5, that's going to be 900 times 0.03, because I'm not going to use a 3%. I'm going to turn it into a decimal, times 5. So let's do that. 900 times 0.03 times 5. I get 135. That's $135. And remember, this represents the interest. This is what the person's gaining. This is not going to be their new balance. They're going to take that 135 and add it to their original 900. Okay? Now, number 6, they try to get tricky, all right? It says $1,348 deposited at an interest rate of 2.5 for 18 months. Now, we're not going to plug 18 in, all right? This number is, think about it in years. 18 months Well, 12 months is a year, and 6 months is half a year. So we're really looking at, instead of 18 months, 1.5 years. So that is the number we're going to use instead of 18 months. They're trying to trick you, but you want to keep it in the term of years. So that's going to be 1.5. So we're looking at 1348 times 0.025 times 1.5, and we will get $50.55. That's going to be the interest rate on that. So let's write that in. $50.55, and that is the correct answer. All right. Part of my allergies. Alrighty. Finally, we're going to do this big old table quickly. This is what some of you guys like because it breaks it down. So we're going to first find the interest, which is just going to be 5,000 times 0.06. 5,000 times 0.06. Enter. And then we're going to get $300. 300 bucks. And then the balance is going to be now 5,300 because I'm going to take my money plus my interest, and that's my new balance. I'm now going to write that 5,300 in for year 2 because I'm going to do it all over again. All right? So I'm going to take 5,300 times 0.06, and I get $300.18. So I'm going to plug in 318, and I'm going to add that to 5,300. Now I can do that mentally. If not, use your calculator. We're looking at $5,600.18. 5618. I'm going to write it here, and then remember that whole typewriter. I'm going to bring it back here as well. 5618. Multiply that. 5618 times 0.06. I get $337.08. 337.08. Now I'm not going to try to be fancy. I'm just going to add that to my old balance of 5618, and I get 595.508. 595.5.08. Write that again. 595.5.08. And finally, my last year. Take this final balance times 0.06, enter $357.30. $357.30. I'm going to add that to 5955.08, enter, and it looks like I'm looking at $6,312.30. Sorry, 6,312 and 38 cents is the final number I get. All right, so that is a good chunk of your homework. You should be able to do the final other problems on your own, and I hope you guys had a great Easter. This is Mr. Talsro signing off. Bye-bye.